SGT coaches, what's going on? It's Connor, and I'm here to talk to us all about, we'll call it threads of movement. And there are a number of these, 8 in fact in total, but for right now what I want to do is dial in on just one of them. And before I even talk about what that thing is, let me start by attempting to define what I mean by threads of movement. Really, all of these threads you can think of as universal principles of movement, such that they are applicable within and throughout and across damn near any movement that you'll see inside of SGT programming. Now, I say damn near, not to just sneak in some potty language, I apologize for that, but because really these are applicable to compound movements, movements that recruit from multiple joints at the same time, rather than an isolation exercise. So for example, if you told me, well, a bicep curl doesn't work for this, heard, got it, understood. But the movements that we're going to talk through, the examples that I'm going to use, are intentionally chosen from SGT programming, whether we're talking about alpha strength, alpha conditioning, GTX, even some ultra fit, maybe even some MB360, depending on the programming, so that we can all have a better understanding of not just coaching specific movements, but understanding more movement universally. And so, all of that said, the first thread, or the thread that we're going to talk about right now, the fancy term is core to extremity motor recruitment patterns. Now, what does that mean? Let's start by defining terms. Core, I'm talking about generally the musculature of the core, but really I'm talking about like the centermost portion of the body. And I recognize that this is probably a strange action to do in a professional video, but here we are, we're in too deep now. And then extremity, as we get out farther away from the core in the center of the body, we're now talking about joints like the shoulder and the elbow and the wrist, or the knee and the ankle. And when we say core to extremity, we're talking about recruiting maximal force first from the core and allowing the creation of that force to then assist with the recruitment and call it the leveraging of that force out into the extremities. And so, all of that said, a great example of a movement like this is a hang power clean. Hang power clean, where the weight comes from a hang position starting at the knee, and it gets up to the shoulder before being stood up to completion. And the reason that core to extremity applies so directly here is that throughout the process of the hang power clean, if performed optimally, the hips and knees, core, extend fully before any sort of recruitment happens at the shoulder and the elbow to get into the receiving position. So again, a well-performed hang power clean, watch my hips, watch my elbow, and if I'm doing my job properly, again, you see the hips fully extend. We recruit maximal output through the contraction of the glutes. Then and only then do we start to recruit from the extremities, bending of the arm. How we see this fall apart then, which is unfortunately common, is what's called bending early, or in this case, to use the scientific language, the extremity recruitment before the core musculature is done expressing its maximal power or its full potential. And so, again, thinking about the hang power clean, that would be in slow motion. My hips are starting to extend, but before I get through, elbow starts to bend. I'll attempt to do some at speed. We'd be here, where the elbow goes first, the hips go second, and in doing so, we recruit more from the joint of the elbow and the surrounding musculature that gets involved when you bend the elbow, rather than through the hip and the knee extension, where the larger, stronger musculature is to create the force in the first place. And while I'm just using the hang power clean as an example here, again, thinking about the thread universal applicability of this concept, you could say in a push press, if I were to start to press early before hips are extended versus fully extending the hip before pressing weight overhead, that is again a manifestation of this core to extremity motor recruitment pattern. Just now, instead of a pulling exercise, it is a pressing exercise. And then we can continue to go down the list. It'd be the same thing if somebody starts to press early in a thruster or in a wall ball. It's no different than if some athlete starts to bend their elbow before their legs are extended in a snatch. Again, lots of examples here. The principle is the same. And the reason that I'm beating it up so much is because if you can understand the thread, all of a sudden, you don't need to worry about, I need to learn all the points of performance for every single movement that I'm going to see in SGT programming. That's no longer true. Because if you understand this thread and the others, which we will discuss in future videos, then it's no longer a matter of, well, what is the push press? It's, are they executing core to extremity? If yes, we're in a good spot. If no, how do I correct it? And then go in and provide supplementary corrective cues, which is a whole another video, maybe a whole nother course in and of itself. So I hope this all makes sense. If you have questions about anything, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out to me directly via email or Instagram or text message or whatever it is, however you can get in touch with me. I promise I want to be able to help you so that you can help your athletes. Thank you so much always for what you do. And if any luck at all, I'll see you again soon.